In case I never document this, I think I'll let you know in advance what my plans are. I've stumbled on a pretty interesting discovery. Combining silver with, or colloidal silver with hydrogen peroxide was one very big discovery. Adding MSM is another. But the third one is beeswax. And I can think of 3 good uses for it. 1, it alleviates mental illness of any kind. The ingestion of beeswax. You don't chew it. You just take a little nodule, tiny, a little tiny, about the size of a barley grain, Swallow it whole. Wash it down with something. And if it's not enough, take some more. But it goes a long way. It's pretty powerful. The other thing it's good for is settling an upset stomach. Now, normally in our culture, we're trained to use Tums, which is calcium carbonate. Of course, they add food coloring. You could use coral calcium or just a cheap calcium carbonate if you wanted to, but better than calcium carbonate to settle the stomach is beeswax. It works like a charm. And I had to learn that because taking bath in silver hydroperoxide, soaking in the bath for 90 minutes, and I'm talking about a lot of silver. We're talking about lots of silver. It suffused my whole physiology, and it ended up in my stomach. And the chloride ions of the hydrochloric acid secretion of the stomach rendered the silver non-ionic, turned into particles, I'm assuming this, but that's my best guess, which upset my tummy, because I always have to filter my colloidal silver. I can never drink it as it is, because particles upset my tummy. And I stay away from any bakery product that has reduced iron in it, because that's iron filings. So the beeswax binds with the silver and creates slow release. And this is an article I found Googling the 2 search terms, beeswax, silver. Maybe not in that order. There's an article on the National Institute of Health website, the NIH.gov website, describing beeswax with silver embedded in it, coating the inside of a plastic container to render antimicrobial benefits to whatever content is inside that plastic container. So I'm thinking, hey, wound care. We could seal a wound with hot wax, and if the beeswax has silver in it, even better. Even better. So, my plan is to dip my penis in the hot melted wax, because I discovered this morning that the minute I put my finger in the hot wax, it would solidify and cool immediately around my finger, and then how can I transfer that to my penis? Rub it in. I had better luck with a block of wax to rub it in than trying to get it on my finger to rub it in, but that wasn't the point. The point was to hopefully it stayed moist, semi-melted, soft. It didn't. It solidified and hardened right away. So I'm going to have to dip my penis directly into the melted hot wax, which is not going to be fun, but if I get used to it, the next step would be to add silver, which I may do it right away anyway, by scraping the silver off the electrode plates. My $800 SilverGen Pro 7 from silvergen.com uses silver electrode plates. They're corrugated, not silver wire. Still 4/9's fine. And it gets a lot of buildup of silver sulfide, let's say, coating the plates, which it comes off. And none of that goes to waste, because I process that colloidal silver with hydrogen peroxide, so all the silver turns into silver ions, oxides of silver. So what if I scrape that silver off those electrodes, using plastic spoon, I suppose, into the wax chips that I have in a coffee mug, about 2/3 full of beeswax chips, so that when I go to melt it, what I do is I set it up in my crock pot. I put an inch of water in the bottom of my crock pot. I put the mug of chips in there, the beeswax chips, cover up the top, and put it on the lowest setting, plate warm, food warm. And then I go take my bath. It's a 90-minute bath. By the time I come back, it's hot and it's melted. And all the silver fell to the bottom. So even if I swirl it, the silver just stays there. Oh well. And these are silver particles. But I could add them anyway. And so when I dip the penis in the silver, see this owie? I fell asleep. I don't know if you can tell. I fell asleep after I did my morning routine with the wax and everything. And then just as I was waking up, I flung my hand and somehow gashed it, And just as I was waking up, so I look at it and it's bleeding fresh. And I said, "Oh, I can use this." So I ran, and there was still some warmth on the top of my water distiller. And I put the mug there, and it softened a little bit, and I squished my finger into that. And then I pressed it directly onto this wound. Pressed and pressed to try to heat the wax by pressure, to try to soften it further, to try to get it to make a thin coating of wax on the wound, and it worked. The pain went away right away because it was no longer exposed to oxygen. Oxygen is what creates the pain when you have an exposed wound, such as a third-degree burn, or a scrape or a cut. It's the oxygen that hurts, meeting up with the raw flesh. So the pain is gone. Now, immersing my finger in hot wax did not feel good, but the pain was gone, and it did no permanent damage to my finger. So I'm of the opinion that this will work, and it'll be a way to seal the penis. Now, why would I want to seal it? To prepare myself for the next step in two different ways. First, the main way is the pain. But the other is the procedure to get accustomed to. All of these are steps of procedures that I get accustomed to. For instance, I still wrap my penis up with a piece of cloth soaked in colloidal silver with MSM, not silver hydroperoxide, because that will burn the flesh eventually. And I change the dressing, and I hold it in place with the corner of a sandwich baggie that I've cut to be in the shape to make it into a cone, to keep the moisture from escaping too rapidly. And then I hold it in place with a modified Picante underwear. And then I bought a lasso, what do they call it? Well, the rings are called cock rings, but this is a lasso, and it goes around all the genitals, and it holds everything in place, because otherwise the modified Picante sheath for the penis slips off. I only use that at night, though, when I'm sleeping. So I'm thinking, and I've got 10 disposable medical grade stainless steel scalpels. I just, I don't know if I want to go there, but if I can get used to the pain of melted wax, beeswax, how much more would it be scalpel pain, I just have to be extremely careful, because I'm sure those scalpels can cut through skin like it's butter. Not to cut an artery or a vein, because I don't want to bleed to death should I get an erection. Because you have to keep the wound open in order to regenerate tissue. You cannot close the wound, with sutures or with a patch of skin. But if you close it with a foreign material, such as beeswax, it sends a message to the body that, hey, the wound is still open. You didn't put any skin there. He didn't put any skin there. What are we going to do about it? Let's fill it in with more skin. So what I'm thinking is that if I do a recircumcision entirely around the circumference of the penis, right at the scar line, right below the corona, and move the skin down towards the base, and exposing a section of the penis, bare raw, coat that with wax. Hopefully there's silver in the wax. Then the body will be forced to make up the difference and put skin there. Which means when it finishes, the skin that was pushed back will not be subsumed by the body, sucked back, made to disappear. It'll still be there. And then it'll flop forward, and essentially I will have grown more shaft skin, basically. but not by tugging, but by simply keeping the wound open and continuing the baths once a day, because it'll be sealed in wax. See, this was my other problem. How do you seal a wound? Using a gauze dressing, it'll still be open. And how do you bathe? And soaking in a bath of silver is extremely important for me. It's part of my routine, my ritual, to support the body so that the body can support any one section of the body that I may want to focus on. My whole body has to be supported with silver nutrient to spontaneously aid it in spontaneously regenerating, should it choose to. Any part of the body, the internal organs, that may need to regenerate themselves. Spinal column, brain, whatever. It'll go where it's needed most, the attention of the body. Well, if I want to focus on some area, how am I going to do that? How am I going to immerse myself in a bath? And then you've got crap in the bath, I've got clove powder, and there's bacteria in the water, I may be killing it off with silver hydroperoxide, but still, there is this issue. So sealing a wound with wax is a cool idea. It's totally sealed. It's like an artificial scab. And the whole point about scabs, when you study Becker, is you must not have a scab, because a scab, namely dry clot of blood, is an indication you failed to keep the wound moist at all times. That blood that developed into a scab should never have hardened, and the pus too should never have hardened, because they'll be pussing. All of it has to be kept moist at all times, or else the white blood cells cannot turn into stem cells, and healing will not occur. You'll just get closure with scar tissue. That's the most you can hope for. So I think wax will work. It'll keep the wound moist, and it'll keep it open, and it'll keep it dressed so that it doesn't get infected. Now, my little scrape was infected at first, and it still is. It's a little swollen. I don't think my cell phone picks it up. Yeah, there's a ring of swelling. You can see. Yeah, you can see it. There's a ring of swelling around it, so it's slightly infected. But there's absolutely no pain, and it looks fresh. Do you see any dry blood or something? It looks pink, red, just like when it was newly scraped. It's beautiful. It's like, what do you call it when you bag veggies? Vacuum pack, vacuum sealed. This is so cool. So these are the steps I'm outlining. I think I have a solution, because I've been putting off this most important factor of Becker's protocol, the wound, or the artificially induced wound that Pramod Vora did, and John Marshall Dudley. He cut off his thumb and kept it soaked in colloidal silver with a dressing, and grew back his thumb with the fingerprint, with the thumbprint, and the nail, everything intact. So there's another person who's replicated Becker's research. But, how do I go about this? Because the penis is a very challenging body part. When it's basically a specialized organ filled with capillaries, a spongy tissue filled with capillaries which can expand. That's what capillaries do. That's their job, is to expand or contract. And should they become expanded with blood, a person can bleed to death. One guy almost did. So this is not something to take lightly. So the wound has to be sealed, but a gauze dressing doesn't do the job. It'll keep it wet, but then how do I take a bath? So you see the problems. And beeswax is the solution. It's uncanny. Mother Nature gave us a beautiful way to dress a wound and seal it and prevent further infection from taking place. Okay? And you have to support the body, right? And in all of this, because you can't have a weak immune system that's compromised, because it's going to be taxed when you have a wound. All the white blood cells are going to want to congregate there, at the wound site. So you have to support the body, and so a full body bath soaked in silver is a very good idea. So these are all the steps I'm taking. I told somebody, I'll try and document it. I'm not sure I'll be able to have the ability to handle a camera and pain at the same time, so we'll see. It's all about getting used to pain, basically. And getting used to, more importantly, getting used to the procedure so that I can do the procedure in my sleep. So then I can focus on anything new that I'm doing that I haven't done before, such as having to experience pain. So I told the guy it would take me a year to get ready, before I even do anything. But he said, document everything. Well, this is more than a year. This is a year and a half. Almost a year and a half now. And I'm still not ready. I'm getting there. Baby step by baby step. And it's looking very promising. I had no idea I could solve each one of these challenges. And new things like MSM I never would have dreamt of. How important that is to combine with silver. Any kind of silver solution. Doesn't matter what. MSM helps it. So these are the things to keep in mind. It's really amazing, and I'm impressed that it's possible to solve these technical details, although they're significant. They're not minor, but they are technical. They involve technicalities and a little creative engineering and Chutzpah. This is what I'm referring to. Some kind of a lasso. I don't know what they call it. Silicone rubber. Pretty good.